Welcome back. We're at 948 billion plus for the cryptocurrency market cap. States are now suing Brian Brooks over the issuance in the letter that he's written for cryptocurrencies and regulation for the federally chartered banking system. We have a lawsuit against investors against Ripple. Whoa, what a mess this is. Can we just roll this intro? Let's roll this beautiful intro and get into this.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove at the top of the screen and everything that we're talking about here today. Let's go ahead and get into this thing. For one, we are at 948 billion plus in the total crypto space. We are really, really close to hitting that $1 trillion mark for cryptocurrencies. I don't think we're far away here. Now, let's go ahead and look at this really quick. XRP coming in at 23 cents this morning. Bitcoin breached $35,000. So congratulations to Bitcoin. Stellar has flipped Ripple. Stellar is at 32 cents, 0.3207. This makes me happy, because I like XLM too. It's very good to meet you, Stellar. We like you. Yeah. Look, I've been a big fan. I've not been shy about saying it on the show. I'm not a maximalist. In matter of fact, I am a maximalist. I'm a utility maximalist. And if you've got utility, if you've got use case, I'm all about it. And you know what? Stellar showing up this morning at 31 cents, and I hope it keeps right on a rocking. All right, so now let's get on to it because we have a lot to look at today. I'm going to play just a short piece of this right here just to set the tone for where we're going. We have a lot to unpack. Here we go.
Yeah.
So the banks controlling and getting influence there is one concern, but to me it seems that there's a whole bunch of regulatory space that needs to be addressed. Is Ripple engaging with regulators at what level, and what are you guys doing about that when they start to pay attention to your tech?
Listen.
Absolutely. We've been engaged with regulators for some time. If you talk to people in this space, they'll tell you the biggest obstacle to adoption or the biggest obstacle to business development is regulatory uncertainty. And there's only two ways to fix that: engage with regulators or engage with courts. And I think we would all agree, I hope, that the regulator option. So you cannot put your head in the sand on this. If the biggest drag on adoption is regulatory uncertainty, then the only way to fix it, other than risking going to jail, is to talk to regulators. And so we put Zoe Cruz on the board, Ben Losky. We engage with regulators all the time. We travel around the world. We educate them. You don't want your first engagement with regulators to be when a crime happens, and then you get the law enforcement people instead of the policy people. I cannot overstress how important it is. And also just be completely transparent, because if Ripple has the luxury of being fairly well known. Regulators know exactly what we're doing, right? We don't have that many secrets. And so if regulators said, hey, you're obviously violating this law, we would hear it and we would talk to them and we would engage. But I do agree that there are certainly regulatory threats, and they're not from known laws that we're breaking. They're from uncertainty about how those laws apply. And I think the entire community needs to engage with regulators. I will just call out one small thing while I have the microphone and the power to do so.
And he just encourages everybody to work together in the space. But the point is he's very clear about the fact that they have worked closely with regulators over their time in this space. And what is happening here, I want to remind everybody, my perspective on this is this legal precedent needs to be set. This lawsuit needed to happen. I'm not so sure Jay Clayton's the bad guy everybody made him out to be. In fact, I believe that they have to have this. You can't continually have the SEC decide who they're going to anoint and allow through the gate and who they're going to tell to turn back. There has to be an ad hoc test, just like the Howey test, for digital assets in this new digital asset class. I believe that we will get a legal precedent from a ruling, whether it goes all the way to court or whether they get a judgment before going to court. I believe that this needs to happen and it be mandatory because the SEC has created a new division for digital assets. And in that, they will need to have their own version of the Howey test, which I will believe will become the Ripple test. That is where the Howey test came from, is a Supreme Court decision on that case to define the Howey test going forward for what is a security or not. This is what we need. And I don't want to see it settle out of court because the door's still open for somebody to continually sue it. We need legal precedent. Make no mistake about it. All right, going forward here, we see blockchain.com follows other exchanges in delisting XRP. And that ain't all, because let's go ahead and get to this, because that's not new news as far as it is for them, but it just keeps happening with the delisting and the halting of trading. We know that that's a wave that's moving through, which I believe during this time that they get that legal decision, what they're really doing is shutting the door on the retail investor and the speculator. That's what they're really doing. And right here we see Ripple has a statement regarding Tetragon. One of their investors is now suing them. Let's just take a look at this. It's very short. They say in Ripple's Series C investment agreement, there's a provision that if XRP is deemed to be a security on a go-forward basis, then Tetragon has the option of having Ripple redeem their Ripple equity. Since there has been no such determination, this lawsuit has no merit. We are disappointed that Tetragon is seeking to unfairly take advantage of the lack of regulatory clarity here in the U.S. The courts will provide this clarity, and we are very confident in our position. And you know what? I think that's about as well said as it could be. And as far as Tetragon goes, hey, band of brothers, you should rent it sometime. All right, now looking at the next thing here, we got this, and this is something I wanted to get into. So, what are the implications of the OCC's letter? This is some more fun. Listen to this nonsense here. Down at the bottom, this person writes, undoubtedly the news was a boon for the market's stablecoin issuers, as well as ETH's crypto primary stablecoin settlement protocol, with the world's largest altcoin climbing in 12% in the following the release of the letter from the OCC. However, the letter's content may have made bad situation worse for XRP, they say, especially since the cryptocurrency has fallen by 65% in the weeks after the SEC charged Ripple for illegal securities offering. In fact, Ripple CTO David Schwartz has stated on numerous occasions that XRP is an ideal bridge asset between stablecoins and CBDCs. However, the OCC's letter now informs that banks must treat open source blockchains the same way they treat SWIFT, ACH, and Fedwire. How any of this in her mind could be bad is absolutely baffling to me. Following the release of the aforementioned letter, many in the community are arguing that this may just eliminate the need for a bridge asset such as XRP altogether. Woo-wee. Yeah, get your waders on. This one's deep. This one's deep. You know, there's a reason that the repo market actually went dark. There's even a reason that the repo market had to have the Federal Reserve intervene and become the lender in the overnight repo market for banks. You know why that was? Because banks don't trust each other. And they don't want to lend each other money, let alone a digital version of that as a stable coin. So this is FUD. Boom. There it is. Do your research before you put out an article. Uphold will not stop trading XRP despite the ongoing SEC lawsuit against Ripple Labs. Abra's CEO believes a settlement between the SEC and Ripple is most likely, as both sides have made mistakes. Thank you to Michael Val 5 links. And I tell you what, this is why I just went and bought some at Uphold. Shout out to JP Terriot and everybody at Uphold. You know what? Cojones, right? This is what I'm talking about. In times of trouble and in times of strife, you're going to know who your friends are, right? And Tetragon ain't it. Yeah. So now moving forward here, we see some more support. Ripple's customer D-Local payments platform has shared the news of the e-commerce giant Amazon partnering with it in order to accept payments via debit and credit cards in Paraguay. And you know what? I love seeing this because this is a reminder right here, thumbing the old nose right to the U.S. government. You don't run things down here. How about that? Check that one out. Yeah, because the world is going to use this, ladies and gentlemen. The current issue that's going on seems so catastrophic and it seems so horrible. But the reality is, it's just in the U.S. It's just here in the U.S. So shout out to them for moving forward and letting everybody know this is a decentralized global asset, not a decentralized U.S. asset. So keep that one in mind. States sue the OCC and Brian Brooks for overriding their controls on predatory lending. Look, this is an expansion of what the problem was with the OCC when Joseph Otting was there dealing with the NYDFS, the New York Department of Financial Services. You know, that this is not breaking news, okay? It may seem like it, but it isn't. The reality is the states are mad because the federal government, or the branch of the federal government, the OCC from the Treasury, has laid it down. It has done what they are not doing. And this is really about a money grab, right? If you have to keep getting licensed in state to state to state to state to state, that becomes extremely expensive and just this enormous level of paperwork and hoop jumping, and it delays you and slows you down, where now we have federally chartered information that is being laid out for everybody to get a uniform regulatory framework developed in policy. So Brian Brooks has also mentioned, by the way, that he is not afraid to go to Supreme Court on the matter. It's not the first time he's done it, and he said it probably won't be the last. So don't mess with Brian Brooks. And here we go right here. Check this out. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. This one goes out to Big Skinny. Yeah, he shared Justin Juggum, I think it is, agreed the ability to mint stable coins on the XRP ledger will give all banks using it interoperability and the liquidity of XRP as collateral. I think the person that wrote that FUD article probably should have read this tweet first. You know, a government turf war to control crypto. If they don't regulate it, it will go around them. That's exactly right. And you know who else said that? Jay Clayton. I'm telling you, I have to say, I don't think Jay Clayton is the bad guy that we perceived him to be. I believe he understood, and he worked with the other regulators, Brian Brooks and people from the CFTC, Heath Tarbert. He's worked with them very closely, and I think they all knew that this has to go the way of a legal lawsuit in order to suss this out. Think of this for a moment. We're talking not just about XRP. We're talking about a company that has a product offering that is XRP. Right? Just like they also offer, on-demand liquidity, just like they offer RippleNet, just like they've had the ILP that was built and gifted to the W3C, right? Just like the XRP ledger that's been built and really universal highway to the world, decentralized exchange. All of these things have come from Ripple, right? And when I look at this and I see what's going on here, I say to myself, they're going to have to do something soon. The market, even with all of the lawsuits that are going out, I just showed you, is almost at $1 trillion. This isn't going back the other way. And I don't mind telling you, it isn't retail investors like you and me that are blowing this crypto market to nearly $1 trillion. Oh, no. This is institutional money moving the market while all of this dark time is over this space. What is it they know? Because they don't seem to be letting the FUD bother them, right? Let's keep it going. Here's a nice clip to remind you of what's going on. This is Brian Brooks laying it down. Listen to what he says here, because it really...
Anyone across borders who wants to transact with each other has to...
Anyone wants to transact with each other cross-border. Listen to what he says here. He describes the XRP and the ledger. Listen.
Anyone across borders who wants to transact with each other has to pay a foreign exchange fee to change yen into dollars, let's just say, and then also to pay a money transmitter for the act of hitting the send button and sending that money across a proprietary platform. Imagine if there was a single token that was recognized on both sides of that divide.
XRP.
And when you received it, you could cash it out into your local currency. And when I received it, I could cash it out into my local currency without the need to change it, right? Those kinds of things occupy so many trillions of dollars of friction in the system that it's, when people say there's no killer app to crypto, I sort of think, no. The killer app of crypto is the simplest application, which is avoiding frictions. That's what
avoiding frictions. Yeah, because that's what a stable coin from the UK and a stable coin from the US and a stable coin from Japan and so on creates a problem, because the other bank isn't going to want a Japanese stable coin when I know full well I'm one of you and operate in US dollars. That's why XRP works as a bridge asset between all of this to solve the friction. In fact, I'm going to go one step further here. You know what's happened by the releasing of this recent letter by Brian Brooks? Do you know what has happened here? What he's actually done? He has approved that blockchain and distributed ledger technology are payment networks and can be used by the federally chartered banking system and stablecoins for payment. What he has done has created the greatest wall of crypto. The greatest walled gardens in the history of cryptocurrency have just been created by the recent letter of Brian Brooks. And there is an asset that can solve the friction of those walled gardens and all those stable coins that are getting ready to make their way in that system. It is XRP. Now, let's go one step further here. It's Brian Brooks again. Listen to what he says about the idea of what they could do with this whole idea of one of the suggestions about how we could move forward here. And now think of the letter that he just issued about payment networks, the blockchain, the DLT. It all can be used, and stable coins too for payments. And listen to this idea about what people are talking as a solution.
Means in terms of regulation and also the enforcement of the regulation, would that mean that that group of people would also be the people that you could bring an enforcement action against?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I don't want to go too far out on this limb because I'm speculating a lot, but you can imagine a world where somebody builds an algorithm that purposely misstates the interest rate, or purposely, has a discriminatory component to it, or purposely, is skimming a few cents off of every transaction and transmitting that to the token holders or something like that in a way that's not disclosed. If you discovered that the software was in fact doing that activity, sure, you could go to whoever originated that platform and you can investigate whether they're the ones profiting from it, and perhaps you could sue them. Maybe you could do that. But the point I'm making is that in an open source environment, once the initial version is launched, as soon as the first set of changes are made, the initial people aren't necessarily responsible for what the software algorithm is doing. And so, again, I come back to the idea of that presents regulatory challenges. Now, there are a bunch of solutions that I've heard people talk about on this.
Listen.
One would be, imagine a world where there was a central government blockchain and all other chains sort of connected to it.
Did you hear what he just said? Now, I'm going to remind you right now, Brad Garlinghouse said, we do know of central banks looking to issue stablecoins off of the XRP Ledger open source technology. Which means that would be a private network built off of the XRP Ledger open source technology. That's what that means. And if you think of that, you're really talking about the idea of a private network on the XRP Ledger being collateralized, because if you're going to move these stable coins, there's got to be 1-to-1 or a surplus. That's the rules, right? So that's just one part of that. Let's keep going here because this is just, it's really powerful. Let's listen to Judy Shelton talk about the idea of what needs to happen here. And you tell me what this sounds like to you. Listen to this from Chandler, Rose, and Allen. Listen, I appreciate this. And by the way, the Greatest Walled Gardens comment that was really brought up about what came out of that OCC document was from a dear friend of mine. He doesn't like to be recognized online publicly, but he knows who he is, and he's a brilliant man. So listen to this right here.
In the same way as I'm saying, if you're going to have a global marketplace, you all have to be using the same unit of account by which you define value for competing goods and services. I mean, that only makes sense. You can have national currencies, but they all then have to abide by the same central monetary unit of account system, which is what an old gold standard did, which is what Bretton Woods did, which is what we need now instead of floating rates. In the same way as I'm saying,
this is really laying down the idea of things being done in a gold cryptocurrency sort of way, as she has said before. The idea of a neutral reference point, right? Something that sits in the middle of everything that's happening, right? And then there's this as a reminder to everybody. Remember when this happened with Brad Garlinghouse and the guy Ross from the IMF? And this was really, and I'm going to
surprise us a year from now is that banks will be custodying digital assets directly.
He's a little off
and
on
I
that
think
one.
Right now we think about that and think, look, there's no way that's going to happen. They're too conservative. And I think what you're seeing is, two things happening. One is banks are seeing that a lot of money is being made by digital asset exchanges globally, and banks are profit motivated. The second, and as we've talked about up here, certainly Ross has made very clear, is regulatory clarity and regulatory frameworks enable banks and financial institutions to lean into these markets. And I think we will surprise ourselves by this time. And by the way, I'll also predict that it will be banks in the ASEAN markets where there is this regulatory clarity and there is a lot of progressive forward thinking. They'll be the first to actually allow for crypto assets custody in their accounts. All right, with that, we'll turn it over to questions. And I see a bunch of questions on this screen, which I can't really read from here, but we're supposed to pick some. Can you see those? Oh, there's 2 votes.
Let me try.
Do you see IMF holding crypto assets in the future? Oh, they're over here. That's easier. You want to take one? Go for it. The first one's for you. IMF. Do you see IMF holding crypto assets in the future? I did not put that up there.
Remember, I'm from the legal department. I'm supposed to be very conservative about these things. I don't want to go into great details about
Maybe
the IMF.
I should take what the IMF is going to do. I think we stunned Ross into silence with that one.
For that to happen, okay, under the current legal framework, some country would have to use a crypto asset as its currency.
Well, we do know that Venezuela just said they're going all digital with digital currency for their citizens because their money has collapsed. That's the point of that one. Things are getting very interesting around the world, not just here in the United States. This is international. This is the planet. This is not just the U.S. and the SEC. Keep your eye on the ball. Let's take a look at this before we wrap, because this is very important what Jim Rickards is about to say to you. And then I want to share a point of it about what we've talked about XRP potentially. Possibly. We don't know for sure. And I certainly see XRP as a currency, but the possibility of XRP having a derivative security or like that designation, but still operating as a stable coin. Listen to hear what Jim Rickards says, and then we'll discuss.
You can't beat something with nothing. In other words, if you really dislike something, you dislike some policy or some law or whatever it is, and I hate it, and you write out op-eds and you rant, right? Fine, you're entitled to your opinion, but you're not going to get rid of it unless you have something to replace it. Ranting is not good enough. You need, again, you can't beat something with nothing. So if you hate the dollar, you think the dollar is weak, you think they print too many dollars, you think the dollar is going to cost, fine. What are you going to replace it with? What's your replacement? And no one has a good answer to that question. It's not impossible. I mean, it could be the special drawing right, the SDR at the IMF. It could be gold. It could be a gold-backed SDR. It could take a digital form. I'm not talking about Bitcoin. I'm talking, I mean, the dollar is mostly
XRP, maybe
cryptocurrency, because the message traffic is encrypted and it's mostly digital. I got a few dollars, maybe a $20 bill in my pocket or something. In Philadelphia, Philadelphia would call that walking around money. But the point is, the dollar is the leading cryptocurrency because it's a digital encrypted message traffic payment system currency. And then you say, well, what about, people say Bitcoin or whatever. Or the Chinese yuan? Forget the Chinese yuan. What people don't understand is that when we say, 60% of global reserves are in dollars, they're not like pallets of $100 bills stashed away in the basement of the People's Bank of China. It's dollar denominated, but it's not dollars. You have to go buy an asset that's denominated in dollars.
Listen.
It's primarily treasury bills and notes. That's what the Chinese own. So the point is there has to be an instrument, and in my example, treasury bills and notes and bonds that you can buy. So where's the Chinese yuan bond market? It doesn't exist. I mean, barely. Where's the Bitcoin bond market? It doesn't exist.
And there's the point right there. There's no bond market. The bond market, as we have said on this show many times, is the backbone to the actual monetary system, period. any support to monetary value, to any fiat, is a bond market. Where is the bond market? Well, this is why I've been talking about the potential possibility of understanding that there could be a designation that may not just be currency. It could potentially be and I'm using this as an example of something that's similar or rhymes or looks a lot like it, but like a derivative security, but operates as a stable coin because it has utility as well. If you look at the XRP ledger and the mantra of Ripple and everyone that's worked on the ILP and all of these things, you understand that the mantra is all the money. But if we just for a second allow ourselves to entertain the idea of this global stablecoin XRP because it has utility, but I call it a stablecoin because you could actually determine the value of it if you collateralize it, not just with fiat as the SDR is, or not just a hybrid of the SDR as Jim Rickards talked about of gold and fiat and maybe even make it digital. But if we take a portion of all these different areas of industry and bring them together in a basket, if you will, or collateralize them on the ledger and as a percentage of these things, then you could have a multi-asset backed global stable coin, which is XRP, right? Or you could choose to have XRP be looked at as the bond or derivative and then issue a stable coin off of it. XRP could be a derivative security and function as a global stablecoin because it has utility. Or maybe they choose to go one extra layer there and choose to look at XRP as that derivative security or a la bond, even though it's deflationary because you have all of these asset-backed tokenized assets of value placed on the ledger. And this would then, in my mind, from where I sit, I mean, who am I? We're speculating about the possibilities. We're not saying it has to be or it has to be, but we're just looking here and trying to be very, very open about what could shake out and what is best for the world and honestly, not so much us, but the entities and institutions that can bring the level of volume of utility to the network. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, none of us want to be shut out. And I don't think that we will be. I think at the end of the day, you're going to be allowed to trade. You're going to be allowed to do all these things. I just believe that because they've had the claim of being an unregistered security, that they're stopping, halting, and trading in the retail market because after 7 years, this is the stuff that you do to try to for consumer protection, right? 7 years later. Again, I'm not so sure that Jay Clayton's a bad guy. I think Jay Clayton was just the guy that knew that this is what we have to do to get this where it needs to go. And it's not just about Ripple and XRP, but again, understand that, this is the first project that has a company behind the asset, right? I'm not talking about a foundation, of developers like Ethereum. We're not talking about the lack of a foundation or a company behind Bitcoin. We're talking about Ripple and XRP. That's why I believe this company and this asset are in question with the SEC right now, because this is the legal precedent to move forward with the digital asset space. And in light of that, I want to leave on this note. Just know that even though the SEC is suing Ripple for having an unregistered security, which is believed to be XRP, it hasn't stopped NASDAQ. NASDAQ is still listing the indices and price feed for Ripple XRP right now. So that to me is exciting, and that's what I've got on this day. I hope in some way we've been able to elevate the conversation to a place where we can all start to really bring even more ideas and thought into the matter to see what really shakes out. One thing I can tell you is if you believe, we're always looking, what can we take off at the table and rule out? Well, I'll tell you what we can take off the table here at my house is the slow and steady theory. That is off the table. I'll catch all of you on the next one. Make sure you check out the links in the description box and the comment section. They're really great products and services that I use each and every day, and some really great deals. So if there's anything you want or need, it may be in there for you. I'll catch you on the next one.